we said that the first option was to connect. Connect ECM. Let's take a look at the second option, fault codes. And in fault codes, look, for example, it tells me that I have X number of codes. I have a module connected to a bench, it's not connected to the sensors, it's connected to the truck. But look, the code 1239, I can't see the description. I have to roll over here to be able to see the description. Let's diagnose. I connect and here it tells me, for example, FMI3. Rail pressure sensor circuit voltage above normal. Since I know that an FMI3, as I have already seen the videos and I know how the sensor works, I know it's very likely that the sensor is disconnected. And FMI3 is high sensor voltage. In this case we have two sensors. The temperature sensors, all of them show high voltage. Because they are disconnected. So, look at all the temperature sensors in this case. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, they all show FMI3. Because the temperature sensors have an internal pull-up resistor of the FM that it uses as a reference. And when the circuit is open it shows high voltage. In the part of the pressure sensors, Cummins pressure sensors, for the most part, are not pull-up voltages, they are pull-down voltages. So it will give you FMI4 when they're disconnected. So just by knowing how the sensor works electrically I can know, oh, this sensor is disconnected. It could be an open circuit problem, or I can know if it's a short circuit problem with the sensor. For example, if I had a temperature sensor with FMI4, I would say, it's a short, either the sensor is shorted or the lines are shorted. But since it's an FMI3, I know it's disconnected, an open circuit. Watch the videos and you'll understand better. See, it doesn't fit on my screen. How do I make it all fit on the screen? I could grab this and shrink it here, but when it refreshes it stretches it out again. There it is, can you see it? Oh, engineer, I disconnected the sensor but it's not showing the code here. And I just disconnected the sensor. It takes some time, and then it shows the code. Okay, we can configure all that. Let's do it right away. I'll go to Tools. At the top, in the Tools menu, Options menu. And in Options, for example, I can configure several things. Here in General, in Appearance, I'll look for each of the menus. In this case, fault codes. I select fault codes here. I say modify and then I'm going to ask them to make the font size 8 and I'm going to click OK. I click apply here. OK, and then I wait a bit. Sometimes I have to refresh and reopen it because it's very slow to refresh. I'll show you how to modify that too. Oh, my ECM disconnected. Sometimes, in order for some changes to take effect, I have to reconnect. For more content and free courses, subscribe. So, here in fault codes, since the font is smaller now, as you can see, everything fits. Now I can see the whole screen. I can see everything. I don't have to scroll down to see the fault code description if you missed it. Let me explain again. Tools, Options, General, Appearance, and here I looked for the menu. In this case, I wanted to find fault codes, and here in Modify I chose the font type. Let's make the font size bigger so you can see better. OK. Apply. OK. Look, it's not even loading anymore. Let's move over here, and here is the description of each of the codes. Now, there are two ways to view the fault codes. I can click on the plus symbol, and it shows me a picture of how the engine was at the time of the fault. So, when this code was activated, I had 5 volts of supply output. On each of the sensor outputs, I had 0% percentage load, meaning the engine was turned off. If it were turned on, it would be at 15, 20, 30, 60, 100%. If it had maximum load, for example, I had the clutch pedal pressed down. The tank level was at 100%. Here it is at 0, the engine is disconnected. But it will show me how the engine was, pressure, temperature, how it was configured at the time when that fault code occurred. Why? Why is it important? Engineer. The car works fine, I'm driving, but when I hit a pothole, when I hit a bump, so, those types of intermittent faults, I could click on the plus and see at that moment how the engine was and see what failed. That could be an option. The other way to view a fault code is to double-click on it. And it will open the troubleshooting, the fault finder, which in this case is telling me that there are multiple versions. But there is a version 101, another version 104, so, for this same module, for this same engine, there are different versions. So, let's say my version is this one, it's ISX12, or let's say it's an ISX15. We'll click OK and here it opens my fault code. The fault code says that it's a circuit of the accelerator pedal position sensor. Ah, okay, I have a problem with my accelerator pedal. It tells me it's circuit 2 of the sensor. But this sensor has a double potentiometer. So I have circuit 1 and circuit 2, it's telling me the fault is in circuit 2. That's why it only shows me the connections of circuit 2. And to the E and F pins, the 3 lines that connect to that potentiometer. E and F give me a fault code. And here it gives me a description. Here it gives me a description of what to do. This circuit operates in this way, etc., etc., etc. This sensor is no longer a potentiometer, it's a Hall effect sensor. Where it should be located, what I should organize. Refer to. You already know, so I won't say it. Check between pin X and pin Y, which one has the high voltage. Check the resistance of the cable from one side to the other, etc., etc., etc. Follow the entire procedure. Let's close this. And let's see. Let's look at one last thing here. I was telling you that if I connect a sensor and it doesn't show up, it doesn't appear. It takes a certain amount of time and then the code appears. You can change that. Reflex speed tools, options. I think it's under general. No, connections. Oh, no, that's why I said general. Here it is. It was general, sorry. Well, I can set it to refresh the fault information every 30 seconds. And I can set it to every 10 seconds, which is the minimum. There it is, every 10 seconds. So you won't have to wait for 30 seconds or a minute, whichever is configured. Instead, it will check all the codes every 10 seconds. It will check all the codes. So if a sensor doesn't show up, the longest you have to wait is 10 seconds. When he comes back and tells me and says, fault code for sensor such and such, for those who are already familiar with INSITE, for example, look on the left side where I have the icon, disconnect, which is what's failing. I have the icon and the name. I can remove the names. I click apply, and look, now only the picture comes up, not the text. This allows me to expand the screen in case I want to see the text better. I'm going to close this so you can see better. Look, now only the pictures don't come up anymore, but if I hover the mouse over them, it tells me what it is, but it doesn't show me the name. So when you guys are already familiar with how to use the software, this is a good way to make the screen bigger and see the fault code better. So we're going to leave it as it was. Options. General. Let's leave the comment showing, and here in appearance, Fault codes. Let's change the size again. It's too big. I'll leave it at 10. OK. Apply. OK. It's done. Well, that's the fault code, and now comes the description of the fault. For more content and free courses, subscribe.